Hey guys, Welsknight here, and welcome to what may be a fairly lengthy video. Today we are taking a look at the newest version of the beta textures for Minecraft. Just released a couple days ago. Some changes have been made, and I want to go through the changes. I want to give my thoughts and feedback on them, and I also want to look at these builds not only in this amazing texture pack testing haul created by Slicknick24 on Planet Minecraft, but also I want to look at the blocks in context, in builds. So we're going to be looking at a bunch of older builds, some of them going back as like 2014 when I first started playing Minecraft. We're going to be looking at my very first survival world and a bunch of other survival worlds as well. Be looking at Hermitcraft Season 4, all sorts of stuff. And I also want to give some suggestions. I've done a little bit of texture work myself, tweaking some of the changes as they are here, and just kind of give my thoughts on what I think would be good, what I think is good, and what I think should be changed. So let's kind of dive into it because this is going to be probably a fairly lengthy video. We'll just kind of work our way down the line here. Most of these textures, I don't really have much to say about them. I like the new sticky piston texture. I think the colors in the redstone lamp are awesome. I love them. They're very kind of warm and inviting, and I like that a lot. TNT has been changed a little bit. It's a bit more vibrant, but nobody builds with TNT, so who cares? I'm a builder. I'm looking at how are these blocks going to work in builds? How are they going to work together with other blocks, etc., etc. And then we come to Obsidian. And this is the first block that has been changed that I legitimately dislike, and dislike very strongly. There's these light spots, and we'll talk about this more later, but there are light spots, which means when you tile this texture and you look at it from a distance, it looks like it has like chicken pox or something like that. Also, I realize that Obsidian is a very difficult texture to do because Minecraft, for whatever reason, decided to make Obsidian purple. Now, I'm no geologist, but as far as I know, looking at geology.com, it says black is the most common color of Obsidian. It can also be brown, tan, or green, and rarely it can be blue, red, orange, or yellow. I noticed that purple is absent from that list. So maybe what needs to happen is Obsidian needs to be made a shade of black or something. But right now, this texture, I don't like it. It looks like it has polka dots, and I'm not a fan. Now, we've got the logs. The logs are okay. However, they're very flat. They look almost cardboard-like somebody made a cardboard cutout of a log and put it up. I have a solution for this that I will get to later. The planks all still look kind of rounded and beveled. And at first, I really didn't like this change. But I have to admit, as I've played more and more with these textures and kind of looked around with them in context, in the greater context of a world, it's grown on me a bit. I'm coming to like it. I don't know if I like it as much as the old textures, but I don't think it's necessarily a step backwards, I guess you would say. Same is going to apply to all the doors and fences and all this kind of stuff. I do, for the most part, really like the new doors. I think the jungle wood is lovely. I think they're all very nice. I would still get rid of the handle, the golden handle on the brown one. Now, are trapdoors listed here anywhere? Oh, no, they're not, because this is a 1.12, and that was added in 1.13 snapshots. Never mind. That's fine. So that's all good. Sponges are now green when they're wet. I'll accept it because, again, whoever builds with sponges. I like the new jack-o'-lantern quite a lot. The slime block, I think, has been tweaked a little bit. I'm fine with it. All this stuff is good. I love, let me just say this on the record, I love the fact that the purple is gone from the end rod. That makes this texture a million times easier to use as a builder. The fact that it is now gray is a fantastic change, a very subtle change, but a fantastic change, and one that I am fully and completely in favor of. The enchantment table, I mean, kind of suffers from the same issue as the obsidian. I don't particularly like it. I don't particularly hate it either. I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it. Most of this stuff is fine. I'm good with the cauldron. I'm good with the brewing stand. The glass, we'll get to that. Don't worry. And as we work our way around most of this stuff, it's all good. Iron bars have been tweaked a little bit. They've got a little bit of green in them now, I think. And I like it. I think it actually works pretty well, especially in the context of a build. And I'll show you some of that later on in the video. Bricks are a much less hideous color. Bricks work much better now for building. Before, they kind of clashed with everything, and this blends a lot better with a lot of other blocks. So I'm happy with that. I like the new ice changes. The clay, I actually don't like, and I'll show you why later, but we'll get into that as well. There's a lot of stuff here. I just want to kind of do a brief overview, and then we'll start looking at this stuff in context. One thing I am a huge fan of is the fact that Mossy Stone Brick and Mossy Cobblestone are now the same color. Thank you, Mojang. There is no reason that Mossy Cobble and Mossy Stone Brick should be different colors. Mossy Cobble was a vibrant green, and Mossy Stone Brick was kind of this dull green, and you couldn't use them together for that reason. It looked ridiculous. So this is a great change. I would, however, tweak this a little bit more. I'd like to turn the I'd like to see the saturation on the green turn down just a little bit, just a tiny bit. And I think that'll be a good change as well. The Glowstone, I don't know. Glowstone is another one of those textures that's very hard. What I've done for my personal resource pack is taken the sea lantern texture and made it glowstone colors. That's what I've done personally. I don't know if that would work for the vanilla game. But I do think this is an improvement to the previous glowstone textures. Also, Netherrack looks just a little bit different, if you haven't noticed. I do think, though, that the new Netherrack texture, is fantastic. I like it a lot. Endstone brick is fine. I would actually like to see endstone brick and sandstone end up being almost exactly the same color. To be honest, you could use endstone brick then with sandstone builds. You could use endstone itself with sandstone builds, and it would look fantastic. It would give this block a much more, it would give it a lot more purpose. It would mean it would be able to be used in a much larger variety of situations rather than basically right now it looks good with purple, and to be honest, nothing looks good with purple. So that's a whole nother animal as well. Dark Prismarine. This is a change that I'm not particularly a fan of. It's a lot more saturated. The colors are more vibrant. I'd like to see this toned down and darkened. I actually quite liked the old dark prismarine texture. This one, it's okay. I'm fine with the actual textures. It's just the color that I take issue with. Gold blocks, emerald blocks, diamond blocks. I mean, I'm not really a huge fan, but then again, who, for the most part, builds with gold, emerald, and diamond, although we will look at this in context later on in the video. I like the new iron block. I like the lapis. I like nether quartz. The ores are all fine. No real complaints here. Then we get to quartz. I have to say, I love the new quartz textures. Look at this. Look around this room. It's so subtle, but it's kind of, it's much softer. The lines are much softer. Everything just kind of blends together a little bit better, and I like it a lot. I think the quartz is an awesome change, and I much more prefer the color here. It's a little bit duller, and that means the quartz is going to blend better with other things, like bone blocks, for example. So I'm a huge fan of that. I'm not really a huge fan of the gravel, but I can get used to it. The sand is all fine. And then we get to andesite. Oh dear. This was the other change. This was the other major change with this version of the texture pack that I really dislike. This andesite block right here. I'm actually mostly okay with the polished version, believe it or not. But this, no. First of all, notice the difference between the polished and the non-polished. Here, let's take this off so you can see it a little better, okay? See how much more green this one is than this one? This is much more gray. This is much more green. These two, I really think, need to match up, okay? This also used to be one of the best blocks in the game to mix with stone. You could do a little stone thing, mix in some andesite, and you'd have this lovely little mixture of blocks that looked absolutely fantastic together. This does not look fantastic. We'll see it in context later, and I will give my thoughts as to how to fix that as well. Polished diorite actually looks pretty good. I can't believe I'm hearing myself say that, but I'm hearing myself say that. It's actually usable. Maybe not quite the most amazing. It's not polished andesite, but it's certainly a huge improvement from where it is. The same goes for the diorite block texture. Certainly a vast improvement from where it was, a big step in the right direction, but I think it still could be better. What I would like to see is regular diorite to basically just look like a white cobblestone or a lighter colored cobblestone. Or for that matter, a lighter colored granite, like a whitish granite. These two could have the same texture and I'd be fine with that. This texture would blend quite well with cobblestone. It's just that the colors of it really don't. So I'd love to see like a lighter cobblestone. That would open up so many options for builders, and I think it would be great. Soul sand now has the little faces in the soul sand are a bit more defined. That's fine. It's all good. No complaints with any of this stuff. It's all peachy. And then eventually we get to glass, which is right here. This texture. Before, there were these little lines in the corners. This is sort of an improvement, but not really. Now the lines are very speckled, very darkened. It's still just, it doesn't... Regular glass in Minecraft has just, it's never been good. It really hasn't. And I think I have a solution for this as well, and sometimes the simplest solutions are the best ones. So I think that is basically it for the most part. I do really like the new beds, by the way, and I also especially like the bed icon. It's got like a little ruffle now under the covers, which I like quite a lot. But let's go ahead and take a look at some of these blocks and things in the context of a Minecraft build and in an actual world situation, because looking at them by themselves in a display hall like this doesn't really give you the big picture. So let's go ahead and take a look, and I'll be back with you in a sec. All right, my friends, welcome to my very first YouTube Let's Play world. This was the world in which I created my very first Minecraft videos. I'd been playing Minecraft for maybe a month when I started this world, and, well, looking back, there's certainly some things I would change, like this, for example. This is not a good look. This should go all the way into the ground. Also, I was building with birch. What was I thinking? Self, please. But you learn lessons as you go, and that's okay. Anyway, looking at some of these things in context, the first thing that sticks out to me is these logs really, really clash with the rest of the build. And that's not something that used to be the case. I'm not a fan of the new logs. They're very flat. They stand out too much, and they don't look like logs to me. They look like wallpaper or something. There's a lot of stuff that we could look at here. I'm not going to spend a bunch of time in this world because we have a lot of worlds to get through, but a couple things to kind of be aware of. You know, right here, the hoppers in context looks pretty good. I'm happy with it. Over here, the armor stands, this little armory looks pretty good. One texture that I did notice is, well, the saddle. I didn't notice that yet, but that's an interesting one. Do we have armor in any of these? Like actual armor? It doesn't appear so. Well, let's do it this way. The new armor stands. Oh, that's right. This is a world where I didn't even have cheats enabled to switch into other game modes and stuff, so that was a long time ago. So we need to go open the land, game mode C, there we go. And now, if we look at armor, look how thin the chest plates are. They're very, very thin in these icons. I think a little too thin. I think they look great in the world. The in-world chest plates, looks totally fine, but I think they need to be fattened up a little bit. I think it's the actual like texture part of it, mostly fine. I think the chest plates need to be fattened a little bit. They're a little too skinny right now. They look like they're a little flimsy, in my opinion. So that's a thing. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff in this world. Many of you have probably never even seen this world. It's so old. And that's fine. In many ways, that's probably for the best, because this was long before I knew I had any idea what I was doing with both YouTube and Minecraft. And there's not really that much stuff here, to be honest. It's a fairly small world. But, you know, when you're first learning a game, you take a lot of time to learn some things. For the most part, everything looks okay. You know, you look out in the world, it's all good. Roads, this is, you know, the andesite here actually looks just fine. I think a lot of people are worried about the new andesite, thinking it won't blend with stone and stone brick. You can see right here, it blends just fine. But let's go pop over to another world and get a little bit of a better idea of some of these textures and how they fit in. Here we are in the very creatively named 1.8 single player survival season 2. I know. This was in an amplified world, and some things here kind of stand out to me as far as different things that we didn't look at before. Again, the logs, they really look out of place. There's a lot more lines in them than everything around them, and I can't say I'm a fan. Also, you must have learned at some point to bury the log all the way into the ground. Apparently, it was not yet at the time of this series. We got this little barn thing going here. We got a cow farm down here. We got a little castle-type dealio up here. It's all fine. Here's the gravel in world. I could get used to it. It's okay. It's not really in the context of a build, but I think I could get used to it, and I think it would be fine. Cobblestone, though, this is the big reason I wanted to come here. First of all, the iron bars look great. I'm totally okay with the iron bars. They look a little bit corroded, which I quite like they're a little bit worn out. I think that's good. But when you tile cobblestone like this, it doesn't look all that great. However, I will say that in the current default textures, before these changes go into effect, it still doesn't really look great if you just tile cobblestone, so take that with a grain of salt. But this looks very kind of spotty, sort of, not quite polka dotty, but I don't know. I'm not really a huge fan of the way cobblestone looks when it's all tiled together in vast quantities. Then again, as I said, that's never really been a good thing to do anyway from a building perspective, but hey, what did I know? I was still new to the game at this point. For the most part, everything looks good. I don't think there's a lot of major stuff here to cover, but a couple things that I would point out. The sheep. The color of yellow, I don't know if it's just me. I think the sheep have been changed a little bit, and they seem to look a little bit more spotty. Maybe it's my imagination, but if so, I think it looks a little strange. Here's an enchanting room. Look how much the purple in the obsidian contrasts with everything around it. It stands out like a sore thumb, and I don't like it. However, the glowstone blends beautifully with oak trapdoors. This I like a lot. This looks so much better than it would have in the past. And I think, for the most part, a lot of these changes I am a fan with. But now we get into the real stuff. We get into the fun worlds. We're going to get into Welsknight's Realm, which was the predecessor to Kingdoms. And here we are, Welsknight's Realm, the first single-player world that I had where I took an effort to build up the story and the lore of the world, build up the world in different areas, come up with all sorts of things. This was originally meant to be the world that I would play in forever, until I realized that I made some crucial mistakes when I started it, such as not making sure that I didn't have to travel 15 billion blocks to get something simple like packed ice, or stained clay, or any of these other various things. So yeah, what I want to talk about here is the andesite. This is not a good look. The andesite pops out way too much, and the gravel also kind of pops out, and it creates sort of this weird effect. Used to be that gravel, andesite, and cobblestone made an excellent blend for a path, or for walls, or for whatever. They all went really, really well together, and now they're all different tones. They're all different color tones. Gravel has a slightly like purplish tone. Cobblestone is gray, and andesite is like greenish teal, and it just doesn't look very good. So yeah, sort of an issue. The wood still stands out far too much. The quartz looks lovely. The diorite, polished diorite, actually looks okay. And then some of these other things look pretty okay as well. I mean, you come into a place like this, the wood looks just fine. The planks, I think it looks, you know, just perfect. The bars still have that nice corroded look, and I like it. I do think the nether wart needs to be tweaked a little bit. I'm not really a fan of the shape of the nether wart, shall we say. And I'm just going to leave it at that since I'm a family-friendly channel. But yeah, the barn over here, again, these logs, they just, they're too flat. They just, I don't know. I can't quite put my finger on how to explain it, but I don't like it. It's very, I don't know. They look out of place. It looks like someone took log wallpaper and just plastered it over top of the planks. So not really great there. We can head over, I believe we'll have to go over in here. It's been a long time since I've been in this world. A very, very long time, in fact. But I think we can pop in here. Yeah, I thought so. I built a desert kingdom in this world, and birch, sandstone, and regular sand used to actually go together very well. Birch and sandstone were almost the same color. If we take off the texture pack and just look at it in default, you know, it blends fairly well. Not super well. The birch still stands out a little bit, but it doesn't look out of place at all. If we put on the texture pack again, right here, there we go. Then you can see, I think it's the rounded kind of beveled shape of the planks. It stands out a lot more. And I think the birch might be a little bit darker than before as well. It's hard to say. I'm not really sure. But I think it would be great if those were about the same color or blended together a little bit more. For the most part, there's not a whole lot to say about this area of the world. I think everything is mostly good. Path blocks were introduced around this time, so I was using some of those. Everything over here looks good. Yes, let's talk about hay bales. These, you know, builders have complained about the hay bales for a long time. The orange stripes, which are now like pinkish salmon, sort of dark, I don't know, whatever color this would be, stripes. This makes this block pretty much useless for building. It's so hard to do a thatch roof with something like this. It really is. I have a very simple solution for this as well, but this texture, it can't be used for building. It can be used to make hay bales, but there are other textures that could do both. I would love to be able to use hay bales in a proper thatched roof without cringing at how it looks. So, yeah, all sorts of different things kind of in context, little changes that are fairly minor but make a relatively big difference when you put it all together. Now we get to jump into Hermitcraft Season 4, and this is where we're going to be able to go over a lot of the big major changes and really kind of look at how some of these changes are going to affect worlds in a big way. Welcome back to Hermitcraft Season 4. It's been a long time since I've been in this world, and I have a lot of great memories here. I really do. But I figured we would start off at my dwarven base from Hermitcraft Season 4, because I used a lot, and I mean a lot, of andesite in this build, and a lot of stone brick and all that other kind of stuff as well. Now, andesite used to be an amazing block to blend with all the different stone variants. That's why, as a builder, andesite was one of my favorite blocks in the game. And honestly, for the most part, it still works relatively well. if you look at the polished andesite, it doesn't really jump out at you. It doesn't really stick out like a sore thumb. You kind of notice it's there if you're looking for it, but it all still pretty much blends together the way that you would want, and I think that's good. I think this is a great and wonderful thing. Then you get into the regular andesite, the non-polished. And for an example of this, we should probably look at some of the wall sections over here. There we go. It used to be great because you could go smooth stone, would be like your just regular stone. Andesite would be a slightly degraded version of it. In fact, let's actually look at this without the resource pack so I can show you what I mean a little bit better. You used to have regular stone, then it would be slightly degraded to andesite, then it would be slightly degraded to like cobblestone or gravel, for example. So if you look around this base, you'll find a lot of spots where we've blended textures together to kind of make them look like they're showing age or whatever it may be, right? Especially like this hallway, for example. Look at this little secret entrance. This is meant to look very kind of worn down and rugged and like it's falling apart. Lots of andesite, lots of cobblestone, lots of depth changes on the walls and things like that. You go ahead and you turn on the new resource pack. And now you have a green tunnel. The green, it's too much. Please, please no green. Just pretty please. It's way too much. The unpolished andesite sticks out like a sore thumb, and I really dislike this particular change. I do think, for the most part, though, this build still works just fine, as it did before, with the exception of the unpolished andesite. Everything else looks fairly good. So, I want to use this opportunity to show the first glimpse at how I would change andesite to make it work. Let's go ahead and put this on. This is the same texture pack, but with a couple of tweaks and modifications that I have made. What I have done is I've taken the exact same texture and I just turned down the saturation just a little bit. So it blends now much better with the stone. I did the same with the polished andesite, but not quite to the same level. I didn't turn down the saturation in it as much. All I did was turn down the saturation. I think I went to like 80% saturation or something like that, maybe 50% saturation on the unpolished andesite, and then maybe 80 on the polished. I don't remember. But it looks a million times better. I think with that very simple modification, the andesite still gets the same kind of feel that they're going for with the unified textures, but it still fulfills its previous role of being a block that can blend very well with smooth stone. I still don't think it blends as well as it did before, but if we come in here and we look at this tunnel, it's much less green than it was. It looks much better than it did with the other texture pack on, just by turning down the saturation of it. I think in many cases, the most subtle changes, the very slight changes and the simplest solutions are often the best. Now, I still have an issue with andesite, even with this change made. When you look at it in a big clump on a wall like this, it's not a good look. It looks very out of place. Then again, so does granite and diorite, so I can't really complain too much. Now, I think that's about all I have in regards to the dwarven base. So let's head over to the main actual mesa and take a look at some things over there. Actually, before we get to the mesa, let's look at the nether. Holy cow, does the nether look different. This is a huge change, a huge change. Look how everything looks so different than it used to. And you know what? I love it. I think it looks great. This is probably the best the nether has looked. Some people are going to hate this change because it's so different from what it used to be. But you know what? I think this is a huge step and a very, very positive change overall. Everything looks just so much less messy. I don't know. I like it. I like it a lot. I think the darker colors just give the nether more of like an ominous feel than it did before. I think it works quite well. So no complaints from me on that. See, can I sneak in here? Yeah, there we go. Also, even in this context, again, the andesite looks great. Let's take off my texture changes so that we don't mess things up. There we go. So here's the default stuff. The andesite's a little bit green, but it's not terrible. For the polished one, it's the unpolished one that I think really needs to be tweaked a bit. So let's head into the main part of the mesa itself, and let's look at some things over here. Now, we have a lot of stuff. Here is the mossy stone brick. A little bit of mossy cobble over here. There's the andesite again, sticking out like a sore thumb. This is... Can I even get out of here properly? Yeah, I just have to go this way. Downside of being in creative mode, of course. But yeah, looking around, the mesa looks largely unchanged, to be honest. It looks very similar to how it did at the end of Season 4. You know, you get in a little close, and you start noticing some differences. But for the most part, it looks relatively okay. No real major issues or anything like that. In some ways, it actually looks better in a couple ways. Like, as I said earlier in the video, I think the new quartz is lovely. Then we get into the problem with the clay. You may remember at the beginning of the video I said, clay, I'm not a fan of the new clay texture. You can see the lines here with the little swirl in the clay, right? You see that? Kind of going down? Clay used to actually be an amazing texture to use as concrete, as a sidewalk. It blended together in such a way that it didn't look tiled, and it was a nice kind of light gray color, which means it made an awesome sidewalk or driveway in a modern build. The new clay looks tiled because the texture repeats at a regular, the swirl stands out enough where you can look at it and go, oh, this is tiled. It's just the same block repeated over and over and over again. Whereas previously, clay did not do that. I honestly prefer the old clay texture, and honestly, I don't really think the old clay texture really needed to be changed that much. I think it was quite good the way that it was. No real issues with it. So let's head over to the shopping district, if I can remember where it is. It's been a little while. Let's head over to the shopping district because there's a ton of different blocks over there and a ton of different block palettes and lots of things to kind of look at. So first of all, let's look at dark prismarine. Right here. This is very teal. This is very, very teal. Whereas before, it was this nice kind of dark color, but it was kind of like a subdued, kind of grayish a little bit as well. Like, I don't know, it didn't pop out as much, and that's a good thing. It made a great background block for that reason. I would personally go somewhere kind of in between. Actually, what I would probably do is use the new texture. In fact, let me just show you. This is one of the blocks that I changed in my changes to this pack. I would do basically the same texture as before, but just darken it up. Give us a nice dark, kind of teal colored block to really kind of make stuff, you know, give us a nice background block like that. I think that would be lovely. Also, glass in the new texture pack. Well, we've got Rendog's glass place here. If we look at it in that one, the actual new release, all the streaks. The streaks stand out like crazy. And this has been a problem with glass in Minecraft for as long as I can remember. Makes it very difficult to build with. Here, same kind of a deal, right? My solution to this is extremely simple. Keep the borders, add the tint at a slight transparency, just get rid of the streaks. Make it nice and clean. It's okay. It's fine. It may not be very medieval, but anyone who wants a really medieval window can use a medieval texture pack or iron bars or 100 other solutions. This, I really think, is the best solution to Minecraft glass, and it is a very simple solution. Literally all I've done to all of these blocks is remove the streaks. And I think I may have solidified these lines a little bit more. But that's about it. And it looks nice and clean, and it gets the job done. There's my solution for Minecraft glass. And I think it's really the best one. Now, going back to logs. We've talked about logs several times in this video. My solution? Add a very slight darkening around the edges. I think this was originally a trick or an idea that I saw presented by BOO in his texture pack, and I adopted the same concept for my Kingdoms texture pack, which I do love, but which I do not think should be adopted as like the vanilla texture pack. However, this is a change that I think should be made. The logs just look too flat right now. They don't look round at all. Adding this very slight darkening around the edges makes them look much more interesting and much more rounded and much more beveled. And I think if you're going to have this kind of like beveled, rounded shape on the planks, I think it doesn't make sense to have a completely flat sort of wallpaper log on the logs. It just looks out of place and it just looks strange. So adding just a very slight darkening to these edges on the logs, I think makes them look about 100,000 times better. It's just infinitely improved from before. I still think that the new logs, some of them I like just fine. The dark oak is fine. The regular oak is fine. The spruce, though, I don't know what it is about the spruce. Maybe it's the fact that I used spruce so much prior to this, but something about the new spruce kind of rubs me the wrong way, and I'm not really sure what it is. Now, obsidian. Where would be a good place here to look at vast quantities of obsidian all together? I have an idea. Let's go to Cleo's place and take a look at her giant eye, because what I've noticed is that when you look at obsidian, in fact, just to speed up the process a little bit, let's go into spectator mode so I can zoom. When you look at obsidian, if I can remember how to get there. It's been so long since I've been in this world, I've forgotten where almost everything is. Aha! Cleo's place. Here we go. She has this beautiful eye, right? The eye looks, fabulous. And by that, I mean, it looks like it has polka dots and glitter in its eye. And what it is, it's these little light purple spots. First of all, I've already ranted about how obsidian shouldn't be purple because I've never heard of purple obsidian in my life. As far as I know, it's always black. Well, not always, but mostly black. But either way, that's another rant that I'm not going to repeat. If Minecraft is going to insist on keeping purple obsidian, I would change it as such. Make it all darkish colors. That looks much better, in my opinion. It looks very kind of burned. All I've done is kind of gone in, gotten rid of a couple of the little light-colored pixels, moved a couple pixels around, some little things. I've used all the same, I haven't used any new colors. I've just tweaked things just a little bit. And I think this looks much better. It looks much more igneous, I guess. But I think it's an improvement from the current texture, although I still don't know if I like it overall. The new one with the very light spots is just really bad. Like, it's very bad. I'm not a fan. When we look here at Granite, this really stands out. This unpolished granite texture when you blend it with regular hardened clay. That might not seem like a big deal, but regular hardened clay is one of the few blocks in the game that actually goes with granite. So when you take it, when you take away its ability to blend with one of the few blocks that it actually works with, you're doing the block a great disservice, in my opinion. The new brick looks great. Compared to the old brick, it's a significant improvement. But the new granite stone, the unpolished granite, I don't know. I'm not, I don't know how I'd rework that one either. I mean, honestly, if it were me, I would say real life granite can be dark. gray, and I would give us a darker gray cobblestone / stone brick and a lighter gray for the diorite. But that's me, and I think that's a change that probably shouldn't be implemented into the vanilla game. The new leaves look amazing. I love them. I really do. I think all the leaves, I got no complaints. I think they're fantastic and lovely. For the most part, I think the changes are generally positive. Generally. Not completely, but I think for the most part, the changes are good. Some of the changes are amazingly good, like the mossy cobble and the other cobble. Like that, for the most part, I'm good with it. In fact, I have gone in and I've turned down the saturation on the mossy stone brick and the mossy cobble just a little bit. We can actually swing down to the Hermitron area because there's a bunch of different builds. Man, I don't remember where anything is here anymore. It's been so long. No entry. Tutorial entry. Ah, down here. I knew it was around somewhere. Yeah, look at all the different ways that things are used here. We've got terracotta being used. We've got different quartz blocks, and for the most part, all of this looks fine. The Netherrack looks great. You know? The concrete and concrete powder look great. I mean, there's a lot of stuff here to like. And things that don't need to be changed, or things that have been changed ever so slightly. I don't know, though. Some of these things I'm not really a huge fan of. I do like the sandstone. I would like to see some changes. I think I talked about this before, but I would like to see sandstone, endstone, and birch, which is right here. I would love to see these blocks be just a little bit closer in color. I would, if I'm being entirely honest, I would also like to see regular sandstone have this stupid line removed. How many times in the world do you go to, I don't know. I'm not going to get into it. But anyway, what I'd like to see is the ability to make a bit of a wall and do, you know, something like this, and then mix in a little bit of endstone, like so, and a little bit of endstone brick, go away thing, just kind of wherever, and you could really kind of get this nice mix of different textures. Here, though, the endstone's like a little bit too yellow, and this is a little too brown. I'd really love to see the endstone match up much more closely with the sandstone, and then if we added the birch into it a bit, ooh, man, it could be a beautiful mix. But the birch, I could live without. Really just sandstone and endstone, though. If those became the same color, endstone would become so much more useful than it is now. It would be amazing, and I would love it forever. But either way, it's all good. I think that's pretty much the extent of my thoughts. I'm trying to think. I mean, for the most part, yeah. I think I've covered basically everything that I wanted to cover. There are good things and bad things with this texture pack. Personally, I think the good outweigh the bad, but I think certain things definitely need to be changed. I think the unpolished andesite is far too green. I would like to see the andesite and the polished andesite both have their saturation turned down, but the unpolished andesite more so. I would like to see the mossy cobble and the mossy stone brick have their saturation turned down a little bit as well. Please get rid of the polka dots and the obsidian. It's too bright and it stands out way too much. And think about how blocks can blend and be used together. Because in some circumstances, andesite, stone brick, all these things, blocks are just made for each other. And when you start changing certain things about them, you take away that ability. And I think that does the blocks a great disservice. Look over here at this granite, and it still kind of sticks out a bit. I don't know. But either way, I think I have rambled on about this for plenty, for long enough. Let's just put it that way. Guys, if you enjoyed the video, you know what to do. Links in the description below, so check those out as well. Tweet this video at Mojang. I'll put a link in the, I'll pin a comment or something. Try to remember. But guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.